How to knit sleeves for cardigans or sweaters. As you can see, the circumference is quite small, so the options we have here would be using magic loop on a circular needle or double pointed needles. We will not be covering double pointed needles in this video. In this example, we're using summer yarn. For the sleeves, we recommend that you use knitted cast on method. If you use backward loop cast on, it's a little bit too loose for this project, so we are going to do knitted cast on. We do have a separate video for this cast on method that you can watch. But basically, insert the needle, wrap the yarn around the needle, twist, and put it back. And that's it. And then you just repeat. In, yarn over, twist, and put it back. When you're done casting on the required number of stitches, you make sure that they're all facing in the same direction. We want to prevent any twisting. In this case, we're using a 32-inch long size 10 needle, but it is the same concept you can use on different needle sizes. So what you do, you take half of the number of your stitches and you keep it on one needle, and then you pull the cable out a little bit. So you align and you can start knitting. And the excess cable just stays there. So this is a pretty standard way of doing a magic loop. This really is a great method to use because you're not really dependent on the length of your knitting needle. For this garment, for this particular pattern, first round is just knit. So you knit the first set of stitches off of the left needle, and then when you're done, you take the right needle and you pull it, and then you pull the left needle so that the second set of stitches will go onto your left needle. So you've just knitted half of your stitches, and then you have your second half to knit. So you can see this is really pretty easy and straightforward way to knit. Of course, everyone has their own preference. Some people love magic loops, some people don't like it and prefer double pointed needles. It's completely personal preference, whichever way you feel more comfortable. But of course, it's great to explore different methods, and this way you can find out which one you like more. And so for the second round, you're basically doing same thing. You pull the right needle out and you move the stitches onto the left needle. And then you just keep going. Of course, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but as you know, with knitting, practice makes perfect. You just have to keep practicing, and then things do get a lot easier with practice. So here the pattern for your second round, the pattern calls for increasing some stitches. We're doing KFB, knit front and back here. But if you have a different way to increase that you like, I don't think it really makes much difference for this project. So if you like to use make one, that's totally fine. And so you keep going for your second round. And so since this is a cuff, it's probably a good idea to see if your hand will go through, just to make sure. Okay, so good so far. So far, so good. Um, Now we're getting ready to change needles. We're going to introduce bigger needle size. So we're going to be transferring the stitches from smaller to bigger needle. Very easy. You just you just introduce the other needle. And here it's okay to start knitting a little bit more loosely for this project. So you just want your cuff to be pretty tight and the rest of the sleeve a little bit more loose is fine. Once you have finished transferring all the stitches to a bigger needle, it will get much easier. But first round, of course, is always a little bit more challenging because you're inserting a needle through a very small stitch. So here we're doing a kind of a variation of a magic loop on a shorter cable. It's probably not the most comfortable experience in the world, but you will see that after you've knitted a few rounds, you don't have to do magic loop anymore. This your knitted fabric will stretch out enough that you no longer have to do magic loop, and you just keep knitting in the round. I would say after about 4 or 5 rounds or so, that's all it really takes. And then the rest of your sleeve is a piece of cake. So here, as you can see, we're not quite there yet. So For another maybe 2-3 rounds, we still have to do magic loops. So same thing. Pull the excess cable out, move the stitches to the left needle. Half the stitches on one needle, half the stitches are staying on the cable, and then just keep going. So keep knitting. And finally, we're at a point where we have enough fabric that it can stretch all the way around, and we're done with magic loop, and this is just regular knitting in the round. And so from this point on, it's really easy. Just keep knitting until you're done with the sleeve. So this is the benefit of using a shorter cable needle, 20-inch long, as opposed to 32 inches. This way, um, after just a few rounds, you are going just to regular knitting in the round, no more magic loop. And this is what the finished sleeve is going to look like.